5 games into the season, and today's question is simple. Is Tennessee a college football playoff caliber football team?
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Wednesday morning Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols a part of your morning routine, your first listen, your first watch each and every single morning. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Every day yours. Could not do the show without you. I'm the host of Locked On Vols. If you're new to the show, thank you so much. I'm also a member of the VolQuest.com team covering your Tennessee Volunteers each and every day. And we do this show every single weekday morning when you wake up, post-game, after football games on Saturdays, all that and more. The show is called Locked On Vols. Today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Fun show today. 2 guests coming on. Josh Ward, segment number 3, weekly segment on Wednesdays. We're going to talk about the Mississippi State win, where Tennessee is right now in the bye week. John Nabors, who is the host of Locked On Razorbacks, also owns and operates Inside Arkansas. I thought it would be fitting to kind of get a gauge on where Arkansas is right now. Obviously, Sam Pittman's fired. The AD's saying a lot of silly stuff in front of the media. Where's the fan base? Where's the team? I ask a lot of the Arkansas questions, but then I try to relate it to, okay, these two teams play football next week. Kind of what should Tennessee expect in Arkansas next Saturday? John Nabors, we're going to do a crossover next week to get in the nuts and bolts of everything, but John Nabors is going to join the show in segment number 2. But first, in segment number 1, hey, is Tennessee a college football playoff team? I think the answer is clearly yes. Based on what we've seen so far, or a college football playoff caliber team that's going to be contending for a spot in the playoff. I think the answer is clearly yes right now, right? And what's ESPN have to say about that? What's the power rankings, all that and more? What's the ESPN matchup predictor have to say about all that? That's coming up right now on Locked On Vols. So I think based on what we've seen so far in 5 games, absolutely Tennessee should be contending for a spot in the playoffs. Defense has got to tighten up in some areas. Rush defense has got to tighten up. Pass defense got to be better. Scoring defense, I think that stat is so silly because as we've broken down, and we'll talk about Josh here in a moment, we'll talk to Josh about it here in a moment, the scoring defense stat is so misleading, right? I don't pay any attention to that. Sacks are great, TFLs are great, forced turnovers are great, defensive touchdowns are great. Like, those are all really, really good things, but the defense has got some work to do. Offensively, need to run the football more effectively in SEC games because you've not been doing that so far. But what I've seen so far is this offense with quarterback Joey Aguilar is going to keep Tennessee in any football game this year. Even when Tennessee just continued to stop itself and get in its own way on Saturday on the road with all the cowbells at Mississippi State, Tennessee buckled up, channeled down, and got after it there at the end of regulation, tying the football game up on a beautiful drive, and then winning in overtime. I think this offense will allow Tennessee to win or to be in any position to win a football game that's on the schedule. I truly think that. I do. So contending for a college football playoff spot, 100%. Absolutely. What does ESPN have to think about this? Well, Tennessee won an overtime game on the road in Southeastern Conference over Mississippi State, 41-34. And ESPN's Heather Dinich dropped Tennessee to number 11 in the rankings, but because of how the playoff works, Tennessee would be on the outside looking in because Texas Tech would be the projected Big 12 winner, but would be ranked lower. But you remember the Power 4 conference champions get an automatic spot, and the highest ranked Group of 5 team gets an automatic spot in the CFP. Now, where they change things over is they're not guaranteed the top 4, right? So you had Boise State that was ranked lower, was in there like number 3. You had Arizona State that was ranked lower, was in there at number 4 or whatever it was last year. That's changed, thankfully. You're going to be seeded based on your ranking, where Tennessee was the 8th, or Tennessee was the 9th seed last year, or 8th seed last year. I think 9th seed. Tennessee would have been the 8th seed and hosting a playoff game, right? So things can be different. But in this simulation, Heather Dinich drops Tennessee down to number 11 in the rankings, but because Texas Tech is her projected Big 12 winner, Texas Tech would jump Tennessee into the playoff field, and another team, Memphis. Memphis was number 12 seed in the projections, and they're the projected winner of the American Conference Championship. That would take the place of Penn State in her rankings as well. So still very much in that conversation, but now you're kind of getting into that gray area where, okay, if there's a conference champion that's ranked lower than you, you're potentially on the chopping block, and that's kind of where we are right now. This is what Heather Dinich had to say about Tennessee following the win at Mississippi State. Quote, "The loss to Georgia is keeping the Vols behind the Bulldogs, and they got a scare Saturday at Mississippi State before winning in overtime. The season-opening win against Syracuse doesn't look as impressive after the Orange lost 38-3 to Duke. Unlike LSU, though, the Vols haven't had any trouble finding points," end quote. Interesting, like how much does the committee take into account that Syracuse is without its starting quarterback in Steve Angeli? Because clearly Ricky Collins, there's a reason they went out there and they brought in Ricky Collins in December in the transfer portal. There's a reason they went out and got Steve Angeli in the spring, because Ricky Collins wasn't it. And clearly 38-3 losing to Duke, that wasn't it. That wasn't it whatsoever. Hard to kind of argue with what she said in that regard. Tennessee obviously looks better than LSU. LSU, who suffered its first loss of the season. Tennessee is scoring points and looking better than LSU in that regard, because LSU's looked really, really bad so far this year. Tennessee scored 40 or more points in each of its first 5 games of the season for the first time in program history. I have not mentioned that stat on this show before. It's a pretty impressive stat. For the first time in program history, Tennessee has scored 40 points or more offensively in the first 5 games of the year. But Tennessee's had to rally to win an overtime game on Saturday, lost an overtime thriller to Georgia earlier in the season, won 45-26 over Syracuse, 72-17 over ETSU, and 56-24 over UAB. It is what it is. Heather Dinich also wrote that, quote, "It's possible the committee would have LSU ahead of Tennessee and Penn State. It's very possible because LSU, despite not looking good offensively, still considered one of the better teams in the country, at least right now. At this current, or top 15 team, if you will, in the conference right now, or in the country right now. I'm all over the place. Tennessee, after winning at Mississippi State, dropped in the football power index to number 13, but actually rose somewhere. I think rose to number 12 in the power rankings. I'm not sure where in the ESPN power rankings. They dropped in the football power index, but actually rose in the power rankings. You look at the ESPN matchup predictor, and I like to look at this after every game, either Monday or Tuesday, doing it a day later this week here on the bye week. But I love to see how the ESPN matchup predictor that is founded in the FBI, Football Power Index, what the Saturday result kind of changes, if it changes at all, for the games left on the schedule. So before week 5, Tennessee was given a 74.3% chance to beat Arkansas. After week 5, Tennessee, that percentage has gone up by 10% points, because 9% points, because Arkansas fired its head coach. Tennessee's now up to 83.5% chance of beating Arkansas. Alabama, again, this game flip-flopped earlier in the season. It's kind of been Alabama the last couple of weeks. Before week 5, Alabama given a 66.5% chance to win. After week 5, that's jumped up to 70%. Obviously, Alabama went on the road, beat Georgia in Athens. Very impressive win for the Crimson Tide. Kentucky, before week 5, Tennessee was given a 77.3% chance of victory. After week 5, it's increased to 80.2%. Oklahoma, no John Mateer right now. Before week 5, Tennessee was given a 66.3% chance to win at home. After week 5, Tennessee it's gone down, still favored, but gone down to 63.7% chance of beating Oklahoma. New Mexico State is still 99%. Florida, it went down, but barely. Prior to week 5, Tennessee was given a 71.7% chance. After week 5, 69.3%. So barely over 1%. Barely over 1% that drops. So Tennessee still viewed heavily as a favorite according to the ESPN metrics. And then for Vanderbilt, before week 5, Tennessee was given a 63.5% chance of victory. After week 5, it's dropped down to 60.7%. So that game's getting closer and closer to more of a 50% there. And of course, Vanderbilt's nationally ranked. Vanderbilt's playing really good football with Diego Pavia. Defense is playing better, running the football. But of course, we'll talk about the Commodores later on. Be intrigued to see what Vanderbilt looks like against Alabama this Saturday. Off week, hey, we can watch football. How about that? Really, really excited about that. But again, that's what ESPN has to say. We'll continue throughout the season to check the updated playoff projection polls. Everybody has simulations. I love the ESPN Football Power Index. I love the ESPN Matchup Predictor. I think that's interesting stuff to track throughout the season as every team, Tennessee included, continues to build its resume. What I do know right now, Tennessee is absolutely a college football playoff caliber team. What I also know right now, Tennessee can only avoid one more slip-up. choose it wisely. If you're going to slip up, you better choose it wisely, right? But Tennessee can only afford one more slip up this year, and hopefully Tennessee doesn't have that whatsoever. Hey, when we come back, let's check in on Arkansas. A lot of stuff happening right now. John Nabors, host of Locked On Razorback and Inside Arkansas, he's going to join the show next to kind of give us a gauge of where they are right now. Of course, Tennessee will host Arkansas after the bye week. That's coming up next right here on your Wednesday Locked On Vols. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August of this past year. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel anything but ordinary, right? From smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season in life. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count and possible, it becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, right? Whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, and when you don't have a full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorizations of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I love Monarch Money because I got stuff coming from all over the place, right? And it's able to put everything in one concise folder essentially for me, so I know exactly what I have and where my money's going to. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the promo code that is LOCKEDONCollege. Hey, I want to welcome on John Nabors to the show. He is the owner-operator of Inside Arkansas, one of the best places to go find Arkansas coverage. And, of course, he's the host of Locked On Razorbacks. The Twitter handle is Locked On Hogs, so I say Locked On Hogs all the time. What is your show title?
It's called Locked On Razorbacks, but Twitter has this thing where you can only use so many characters, and the word Razorbacks is very long. And, it's not like the Vols, and Volunteers. It's either the Razorbacks or the Hogs. So I'm like, I had to make it that, which quick fun story, when Locked On first made the Twitter account, they made it Locked On Razor Bees. I was like, that can't happen. So luckily I got it just changed to Locked On Hogs, and hopefully everybody understands.
That's not going to work. Nonetheless, do great work. And obviously, if you want to know anything about Arkansas, John is your guy. All right, there's a lot going on with Arkansas right now. Let's start with Sam Pittman's firing. What has the last couple of days been like? The last couple of weeks been like? Where's the fan base? Sam Pittman. From the outside looking in, man, everybody loves Sam Pittman. I think Arkansas fans love Sam Pittman, but at the end of the day, you got to win. He didn't win enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. It's a performance-based business, and I felt so many Razorback fans at the end of last season wanted change. They were like, "Hey, he went 6-6 after going 4-8, and after going 6-6 in those previous years." Razorback fans are like, "Hey, we've seen the peak. We've seen the best of Sam Pittman. We appreciate him coming in and getting back to at least where they had a winning record, or at least with a 500 record. So this would be a perfect time to cut ties." And they didn't. In fact, they didn't even, Hunter Yurchek, the athletic director, didn't even come out and give him a vote of confidence. It was just kind of nothing, no messaging, no nothing. So fans were already like, okay, so what's going on? Like, what's the goal here? What are we trying to accomplish? What do they need? And all those things. Well, anyways, it kind of went into this year where it was a do or die year for Sam Pittman. And it was also a year of, you lost 30 plus players into the portal. You replaced them with some solid players, but maybe not to the level that you needed. You lost Landon Jackson, who was a great defensive lineman. You lost Isaac Tesla. You lost all these players. So given the schedule and everything, it just didn't feel like it was going to be a season where you could accomplish a whole lot. Well, I think everybody saw that they were hanging on by a thread, and as soon as you lose one or two games, it went downhill quickly. And my understanding is that after those close losses to Ole Miss, which respectable, still need to win the game, Memphis, which should have never happened, it started coming out that Arkansas was going to make a move on Sam Pittman into the bye week after the Notre Dame game. And I think the players found out about it. I think everybody in the building knew about it. And that's why you saw the performance against Notre Dame. And that's why they made the move as quickly as possible on Sunday to get Sam Pittman fired.
I want to ask you your opinion on the athletic director there. Hunter Yurachek, is that how you say his name? Again, I cover Tennessee. I don't have my nose to the ground on Arkansas, but I mean, we see clips on social media and everything. I mean, he came out a couple weeks ago and said that Sam Pittman did not have the financial resources to compete at this level and to win in this league. What? Like, he said something last week as well, essentially saying that they're not where they need to be as an athletic department. Like, on the record, how is that allowed? What's the response been like for people on your show? I mean, holy crap, man. Like, does he know he was talking into a microphone?
And here's the thing is I'm going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he does know. And he's just trying to get fired and trying to get a buyout. Like, that's the only thing I could really wrap my head around of, like, not only just saying what you did, but then almost doubling down. Because when he said those comments at the Little Rock Touchdown Club a few weeks ago, where he's like, we're not set up to compete financially, everybody lost their minds and everybody are not set up to win a championship. All fans were like, well, whose job is that? It's your job to set it up. So you haven't come out and said, hey, here's how we get there. Here's what we all need to do. You didn't lay out any plan. So what gives? He had no follow-up statement for 2 weeks nearly. And then he has a board of trustees meeting where he clarifies his comments, but he didn't clarify them. He just kind of said the same thing. He was like, I said I should have been more clear. It's about winning a championship right now, but we could be there. It's like, that still doesn't make any sense. And then, of course, his comments, as you mentioned, after Pittman was fired and in the press conference he had with him and Petrino, he said the same thing. And it's like, I think fans are kind of looking at it of like, okay, he went on about, I think we're going to be set up financially. The next guy who comes in, we're going to go all in and invest. And then he's asked about Pittman. He wasn't financially set up for success. Why? Why was he not set up for success? Was it you refusing to have him be set up for success? Was it the board? Was it the donors that didn't want to give the money to Pittman? Did they not want to give the money to you? There had to be some reason why. And if that was the case, you should have moved on from Pittman and then found a coach who they would financially set up for success. So no matter what it is, it's been a disaster. I have been very critical of Hunter Yurachek because I feel like over the past year plus, he has mailed it in. He does not do anything, doesn't interact with fans. He doesn't talk with anybody. It just seems like he does not want to be here. I know he's interviewed for other jobs. He doesn't want to be here. And I think that there's probably going to be a move there soon, I would think. But either way, not the thing you want to hear from your athletic director. And I think most Razorback fans are pretty sick of it.
As they should be. I mean, I cannot. Those things happen. Those things go on. You just don't admit that to your fan base behind the mic. I mean, what's that? What kind of message does that send to somebody who's going to try to hire right now? And that's the thing. Like, you think a move is going to be made. Who's hiring this football coach? I mean, obviously it's not happening now. It'll happen in December or January. Is it going to be him? Is it going to be the board? I mean, is it going to be a new AD? I mean, what's the process of finding a new football coach, and who's going to make that decision?
Well, from my understanding, it's not going to be Hunter Yurachek making the hire. Is it going to be a new AD? Is it going to be the board? We'll see. But here's the thing that people have to remember, and I don't know if Tennessee even remembers or cares, but this could be not an unprecedented moment for Arkansas, because when Arkansas fired Brett Bielema, they also fired their athletic director, Jeff Long, pretty much at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's how they ended up with Chad Morris, because they had the board of trustees, those people who were not people who would hire coaches. They went along with some bad advice that they got from people that they thought, and they hired Chad Morris. And then they brought in Hunter Yurachek as AD. He signed off on it because it was just like, this is my first day here. And it was an unmitigated disaster, as we all know. So they want to avoid that. I think, and what I'm at least hoping that they have in place, is there's a plan for all this laid out. I think that if it's either going to be the board, or the board's going to bring in a new AD who they're going to tell that AD, hey, this is who we're hiring, type of thing. Because they're the money. They're the ones that have an idea of it. And I know even On3 reported today from their sources dealing with Arkansas that they said, with Yurachek saying, we don't have the finances to make it work. Sources were telling On3 that they do, actually, and they always have had. They have roughly around $16.5 million in spending, which is just $2 million less than LSU and Ole Miss. So it's like, there's a lot of misconstrued messaging and everything here. So I just don't see Yurachek doing the hiring. I think it's going to be whoever is running the bank and running the bankroll, which is kind of the way it needs to be, because whoever the new coach is, you better make sure that they're financially set up in NIL and rev share and everything to be successful, or else you're not going to get a quality coach to want to come in here.
Forgot that about Arkansas, but Tennessee fans can relate because the last two coaching searches have resulted in a new head coach and a new athletics director. So Tennessee's been down that road before. This is a Tennessee podcast. I'm just so interested. I wanted to talk to somebody on the ground there about what's going on with Arkansas. But obviously, all this is relevant for Tennessee as well because both these teams on a bye. Arkansas comes to Neyland Stadium next Saturday, and Arkansas won this game in Fayetteville last year. A game that I think saved Sam Pittman's job, or at least got him another year, right? Tennessee obviously wants revenge. Offense is clearly not the issue for Arkansas right now. Bobby Petrino taking over. So, a lot of Tennessee fans have said, well, is this good or bad for Tennessee? Wouldn't you have felt better if Sam Pittman rolled in Knoxville? I'm like, yeah, probably. But one of two things is going to happen. This team's going to rally around Petrino. They're going to go win a game or two that they're not supposed to, or they're just going to quit. I don't see anything big changing offensively, and offensively is not the issue. I know he cleaned house defensively. Where's the team? What's everybody saying right now? Kind of what's your vibe in that locker room right now? I know this is still fresh, but obviously they're going to want to win this game, and Tennessee has to win this game next week.
Well, I think it's going to be you got to be mindful and watchful because the transfer portal window and opening up.
Yep.
I mean, Arkansas could have a bunch of players enter into it for all we know. I mean, we just don't know. So I think it's going to really be about that and what it's going to be looking like. Because I don't know if we've even talked about it, but Bobby Petrino's first order of business is he fired the entire defensive staff too.
Yep.
Defense coordinator Travis Williams. He fired Marcus Woodson, the co-defense coordinator and secondary coach, as well as Deke Adams, the defensive line coach, because the Arkansas defense was awful. It was just absolutely awful. So if I'm looking at it from a Tennessee perspective, I am not going to be worried. Tennessee should win this game no matter what. They should. But we'll just play the game of just assuming all the players that are on Arkansas's roster stay on the roster because that's what we know. If that happens, one of two things are going to happen for this game against Tennessee. One, Arkansas is going to walk in and these players and everybody's just like, we're done. We just want to get through the season. We mailed it in. We'll play, but we don't really care. We don't really care. Or two, Arkansas is going to get motivated. They're going to get a swift kick in the pants by Petrino and the new regime that's happening. And they're suddenly going to be energized and electrocuted to go in here and be like, hey, we can do this. And if that happens, I still don't think Arkansas wins. But that's what I think what Razorback fans are looking at is like, all right, so what's the mentality and the culture going to be here? And just because Bobby's got less than 2 weeks to try to get this thing together, and going into Neyland Stadium isn't exactly a tough or an easy place to play. So I think it's going to be a matter of, are they motivated? Are they focused in? Whatever. But listen, pressure's on Tennessee. Arkansas should lose this game no matter what. And I know they want revenge, but if Arkansas plays their A game, which we've seen, they are capable of playing decent, then at least they could give Tennessee a little bit more than what they want to handle.
Take the over. Any advice that you take from this show, take the over in that football. I'm intrigued to see what that over is going to be. 2 offenses the score. Tennessee defense makes plays, but they give up points, give up yards, pass defense, all that, and we can talk about that next week. So Bobby Petrino riding in on the hog, baby, saving the day. I know we got to go, but Arkansas fans, most of them love Bobby Petrino still, right?
I would say for the most part, yeah. I mean, there's people that maybe don't want him as permanent head coach, which I understand. I'm one of those that he wouldn't be my first choice. But I think there was always an element, and I tried to say this when he was hired as offensive coordinator. There's always an element of people that felt like they didn't get closure. Because when Petrino got fired at Arkansas, he was 21-5 in 2 seasons. They went 10-3 with a Sugar Bowl appearance, and then went 11-2 the next year and finished number 5 in the country. And in 2012, they were returning the majority of that team. And they were a top 10 preseason team. And then, of course, we all know what happened. So the Razorback fans just never felt like they got that closure of getting to that point. And this is an opportunity for it. And I'll be honest. I think it's weird national media keep bringing up, oh, this is just terrible because of what he did and his moral thing. I'm like, listen, guys, that was 15 years ago almost. Yep. And he's still been in the coaching game. And as far as I know, there hasn't been any issues. At some point in time, you got to let it go. But also, too, if you were going to have an interim coach who is already on staff, there's a lot worse you could do than Bobby Petrino, a guy who's proven a successful coach wherever he's been. He knows how to win. He knows how to win at a head coach. And Arkansas, he knows how to win at Arkansas.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Done it before. So familiarity is very, very helpful. But I think most Razorback fans, they're good with it. They understand it. And this is going to be the trial season for Petrino. He's got 7 games in 9 weeks. If he wins more than he loses and pulls off some miracle or something like that, it's going to be hard-pressed not to give him the full-time job because he wants it. But I think the bar's pretty low. The expectations are pretty low, but hey, you got a former head coach in the mix. Maybe he'll do all right.
John Nabors, again, owner-operator of Inside Arkansas, and, of course, the host of Locked On Razorbacks. If you want to follow along what's going on with Arkansas right now, dive into his shows. Him and his team do a fantastic job. We will hear from John again next week to kind of reset this conversation. Where's Arkansas? Where's Tennessee coming off the bye week? Getting ready for that game at Neyland Stadium next week. And, John, as always, man, thanks so much, and good luck and happy views.
Yeah, can't wait, man. Coaching searches are a gold mine for us content creators.
Yes.
But I appreciate it, man.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It has every which way that I like to place bets, player props, futures for, basketball season's coming up. FanDuel just dropped conference championship odds. Tennessee's up there as it always is. So for futures, for college football on Saturday, NFL football on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, all that and more, FanDuel's got it all for you. And they got that incredible deal right now. Again, $300 in bonus bets if you win. Just place $5 if you're a new customer over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today. FanDuel is where you can make every moment more. All right, this episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. Knoxville's no different. Games and things. Underdog Collectibles, some other places around the Knoxville communities are on Square, operating on Square, and it's really beneficial for the community. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood. These are places that become an extension of our home, whether it's sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, a spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives together. You've got Square that's all about that. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more, but to learn much more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. Again, square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more, but go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, where they're going to see you in the neighborhood. Josh Ward here on Ward Wednesday. Josh, Tennessee at the bye week, 4-1, 1-1 in Southeastern Conference play. I don't think the record is a surprise whatsoever, but kind of what's your feel for Tennessee through this first leg of the season?
Yeah, the record is what the preseason expectation was, 4-1 after 5 games, but the preseason expectation was not overtime games with Georgia and Mississippi State. So it has been an interesting road to this point. But I think Tennessee fans should feel really good about where the team is right now. I think the bye week comes at a good time to get ready for what is next, not just the Arkansas game coming up next at home, but games that follow after that, including a huge trip to Tuscaloosa in a few weeks. So there are things to work on, which should be the case, but there are plenty of reasons to feel really good about what Tennessee has done and is as a team.
Is this fair to say? I mean, I understand Tennessee's not run the football as effectively in the 2 SEC games that you like, and if not for an overtime run of 25 yards and a 27-yard run by Star Thomas in the fourth quarter against Georgia, those rushing numbers would look even worse. But having said all that, it feels like offensively, if Georgia didn't slow Tennessee down much, did in the second quarter, Mississippi State just kept taking advantage of Tennessee mistakes. Feels like Tennessee offensively has been the one that's stopping Tennessee, and I mean that's good for Tennessee, knowing you can be so much better, and maybe bad for the opponents on the schedule.
Yeah, there's more there for this offense, and that feels a little weird to say because I think it's performed better overall than most people expected, definitely more than I expected to start the season with what we've seen in the passing game with Joey Aguilar's immediate impact and the development of the wide receivers, what Chris Brazzell has done, which has been incredible. But there is more there. I agree with you that Tennessee has stopped itself in a number of ways. In the second quarter against Georgia, when things slowed up and tempo became part of the conversation, a big part of that was Tennessee's mistakes, either an incompletion or a penalty or a ball that's not where it needs to be, completed or incomplete, and it slows things up. And I think that got in the way in that game. And then if Mike Matthews catches the ball down the field, that's a long touchdown play that adds to the big numbers. Chris Brazzell, I think, did have a long touchdown catch. It was just called back by the officials. So those are things we saw happen or could have happened that would have changed the conversation. But you can also say, well, Matthews did drop the ball. So those things need to stop. A positive, though, is that Matthews responded. Braylon Staley, after a bad start to the game, he makes a big play late in the game, and then Brazzell's just been terrific. So that, to me, is a big part of the conversation with this team. When they've run into trouble, when they've hit adversity, they've been able to respond. They responded in the second half against Georgia, and they responded throughout the game against Mississippi State.
You do a show every day with, VFL Jason Swain, noon to 3 on the Sports Animal, Josh and Swain. Chris Brazzell, he's been incredible this year. What does Jason say, every Monday and Tuesday about why Brazzell is different this year? Why are we seeing this guy, and why didn't we see this guy last year?
Yeah, the focus, the willingness to get better after what was a disappointing season last year, and he's locked in. I think Swain and I both had very similar questions about Chris Brazzell coming into the season, with the way that he played, with how he dealt with not playing well last year, and then also the health question, because he was slowed at the start of camp and didn't even go through a full month of practice in August. So to come out and play the way that he has, we've also talked about that drop against Syracuse, which I think caused a lot of people to say, oh boy, here we go again. But since then, he's been terrific. So Swain has heaped praise on Brazzell and what this group has done, knowing that there is more that's available. And Matthews and Staley just have big-time playmaking ability too. Yards after catch, that was lacking last year from the wide receivers, and they have made big, explosive plays in this offense.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll go back to Starkville, and man, it's like two sides of a coin, right? You escaped there with an overtime win, and I think Mississippi State's improved, obviously. I don't know how many games that Mississippi State's going to win. So there's that. You also know it's hard to win on the road in this league, so there's that. It was loud, okay? I'm not going to say it's Neyland loud, but the cowbells made it really loud. So good to get on the road and find a way to win. But that's it right there. The other side is like, man, you look at Tennessee and, muff punt, ball rolling down to the 1, couple of tipped interceptions, a fake punt given up, a couple of busts in the secondary. Tennessee tried so hard to lose this game, but the Vols found a way to win where it couldn't find a way to win at Arkansas last year and so many other games. Again, kind of your overall assessment of that road win. Good road win. Certainly don't apologize for it. But it kind of goes back to the whole, with all due respect, Mississippi State didn't really stop Tennessee. It was Tennessee continuing to make mistakes.
Yeah, I still think a lot about being able to get out of there with a win despite those issues. They can't keep having those issues. Make those same mistakes against Alabama, and Tennessee's not winning the football game, most likely. And that could also be said for a game at home against Oklahoma later in the season. Make those kinds of mistakes, needing your defense to go out and still put a couple of scores on the board.
Can you make those mistakes at Kentucky and win?
Yeah, Kentucky, I'm not there with Kentucky. I think.
How about you just don't test it, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. At the start of the season, I thought Mississippi State was going to be a tough game. We got a lot of predictions last week of Tennessee's going to go blow out Mississippi State. And I acknowledge, hey, that could happen, but I didn't see that happening. I thought it was going to be a tough game. And if you had told me some of the mistakes that were going to happen, like the muff punt to open things up, and Mississippi State rushing for 230 yards when you take out the sack yardage, I don't know that I'm picking Tennessee to win the game. So the fact that those things were able to happen, some of the stuff you laid out, and Tennessee was able to win it, to me is a big deal. But they can't have those kinds of mistakes in a bunch of games the rest of the season and expect to be a playoff team. Could, because the schedule's still favorable. That thought remains. Arkansas at home, a game Tennessee just has to win and should by double digits. Kentucky, wherever they play, should win. Vanderbilt's going to be a tougher game than a lot of people probably thought during the summer, but no Tennessee fan is sitting here saying, yeah, it's okay if we lose that game. So Florida on the road, we'll see when we get to that game what that looks like. Tennessee's in a really good spot. At 4-1, Tennessee has a really good chance to go get to double-digit wins, get to 10-2, and get back to the college football playoff. If they continue doing what they've done well, if they can get some health luck along the way, and if they can avoid some of the major mistakes they made at Mississippi State.
I talked a lot of defense on the show yesterday, and I just want to get your gauge on what this defense is. I think this defense is much better than the box score stats will indicate. Now, I fully recognize there's some issues at safety. Tennessee's rush defense has not been where it needs to be. They buckled down in the fourth quarter in overtime, which was good. But all that's got to be so much better. Poor angles, too many missed tackles. the stats don't look good, is what I'm saying, obviously. But stats that do look good, Tennessee leads the nation in sacks. Tennessee's 8th in the country in TFLs. Tennessee has scored 3 defensive touchdowns. Tennessee's got a ton of takeaways on the season. It's kind of boom or bust in some regards, and that boom, you don't win that football game without the boom defensively, those big plays causing turnovers and finding the end zone. What do you make of this defense right now? Because I do think it's better than the stats will indicate, but I also recognize, man, you got a ways to go. You need to defend the run better because the rush defense has not been good so far.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. It's funny, some of the sound numbers like rush defense, third down defense, not great, but big plays that they've needed to make have happened. So when we talked about Tennessee needs to be better at getting to the quarterback, Tennessee's better at getting to the quarterback. It's not just sack numbers. It's what can happen when you get to the quarterback. The pick six that Colton Hood had, that came from pressure that was put on Blake Shapen, errant pass, picked off, taken back to the house. Obviously, the strip sack fumble return for a touchdown, get to the quarterback, ball comes out, and you get points out of it. That's why we talk about getting to the quarterback, because of things that you can make out of that. So they've got to clean some things up. I would say if they can when they get David Hobbs back, he'll be back. It's a matter of when he is. That can help on the defensive line. I'm sure that they're looking at things on film, and we've seen tackling issues with what they need to be doing on the field, angles they need to be taking, and they need to be better there. It's not an elite defense. It's not going to probably be considered a great Tennessee defense, but they can make big-time plays that can save the game. They were also put in bad spots at times against Mississippi State because of where some possessions started with Mississippi State. I think a lot of people recognize that. Mississippi State averaged less than 4.5 yards per play. So, again, the defense, it did some things that hurt the team along the way, but it also kind of saved the game. When they had the second touchdown, at that point, the defense had scored more points than the offense. Defense kind of kept Tennessee in it, while other aspects, the offense and special teams, were helping Mississippi State have a chance to win that game on the road. So I think those big plays will keep the confidence high. Arion Carter, with what he's doing from a tackle standpoint and playmaking ability, there are a lot of different things they can do, but they do have some things that they have to clean up, which I know they've already seen on film, and I know Tim Banks and that staff are harping on.
Yeah, that was kind of my point yesterday. Like scoring defense looks horrible, right? Like where you see rush defense needs to get better, pass defense needs to get better, all that. Like scoring defense, I think is such a skewed stat because of the 4 touchdown drives for Mississippi State the other day, only one was more than 26 yards. Now that one drive was awful. They converted on 4 third downs and they went 13 plays, 15 plays or whatever. But of the 4 touchdown drives for State, only one of those drives exceeded more than 26 yards. So the scoring defense stat is so skewed. Like remember ETSU and Pendleton had that bad snap and ETSU scored 2 plays later from the 5. Like that's not on the defense. So
right.
You can kind of look and pick and choose how you want to view some of these stats. Last thing out the door, man, it's the bye week. Number one thing Tennessee's got to focus on this week, and then of course next week into game week for Arkansas.
Well, some of the defensive issues for sure that we've talked about, getting that figured out. I would say high on the list is getting the offensive line figured out for Arkansas, because my opinion is David Sanders Jr. should be back as the starting right tackle. This is also assuming health with Jesse Perry. He did come back late in the game, at the end of the game in overtime, so that's good. But assuming health, left to right, my offensive line, if I'm Tennessee, is Lance Hurd, Wendell Moy, Sam Pendleton, Jesse Perry, David Sanders Jr. with really no thought. I would go back to what the line was in August and would have been in the season opener before Sanders had to miss a few games. So that, and then that can maybe help figure out some things in the run game, because they do have to run better, more consistently. And I still am confident that Tennessee can do that.
Jam-packed show. Fun show today. Really appreciate Josh Ward stopping by, as he does every Wednesday for Ward Wednesday. John Nabors, busy time for John Nabors and anybody covering Arkansas, for stopping by and giving us kind of a lay of the land of what's going on this week with Arkansas firing Sam Pittman, promoting Bobby Petrino, former head coach, to interim head coach. He's going all out trying to get that job again. The uncertainties of athletic director and Hunter Yurchek, and essentially what all this means for the matchup next week. What could this Arkansas team look like coming to Neyland Stadium? We'll talk about that more on the crossover next week, but I do appreciate John for stopping by the show. And is Tennessee a playoff caliber team right now based off what you've seen through 5 games? ESPN thinks so. What say you? Would love to hear from you here on the bye week at _Cain or at Locked On Vols. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we'll try to get another guest on, talk Tennessee football, but I have done power rankings for Tennessee's position groups through the first 5 games of the season. Going to share those here on the show tomorrow as we continue on this bye week. Still plenty of content, still plenty to talk about Tennessee football right here on Locked On Vols. Thanks so much.